We have in the studio, I'll say, Bunso Amwa, Member of Parliament for Ekuapem South and also a member of the MPP as well, and Kofi Adams, who is trying to unseat the current national organizer of the NDC, Yabwatin Jan, but currently holds the position of Deputy General Secretary. Thanks for joining me, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay,
but I'm not unseating him. I'm contesting for the NDC national organizer position.
He doesn't enjoy going for.
My phrase was.
I'm not unseating him. He will finish his term that he has been elected, but the party will declare that position vacant for any qualified party member.
Is he also contesting?
I think so. He may contest. Once the nomination has not, people will be talking. But since he has not picked forms,
he's seeking to
Kofi Adams, you are interested.
Contesting.
Anyway, now let's look.
But I heard him.
You heard him.
Yes, and he seems to be a cool maker. He enjoys deposing incumbents.
All right,
and that's not good enough.
Okay,
you should look for a position where maybe
there are no incumbents. Yeah.
So
if there are no incumbents. When you want to go, then it means you never contest.
No, it means the incumbent will not run again. The fresh faces.
When did you contest for parliament?
When did I contest? I have only done it once.
One coup. Why?
You have only done about 5 coups.
Or in politics, you have to do coup.
You have done about 5 coups.
It's your competence.
He did a bigger coup.
It's too much.
Is your competence pitted against somebody? So
his school
that's
is
it.
even
And how
bigger than
persuasive.
5 or more.
And how persuasive you are is also critical.
5 or more is too much.
I said his school was bigger, on a bigger platform.
But you should know who he speaks for, so I'm not surprised.
Right.
I said his school is
he
bigger.
picked up the traits.
But
we're talking about traits. I don't know whether, well, if we have an atmosphere of having a lot more worker groups going on strike, whether it's also infectious. Because now it seems to have also gone into the line of the private sector. FPSO and Chroma workers were also striking in the high seas, and well, talking about that, the public sector workers, the 12 union, they declared a strike action. Then within that, the teachers also declared a strike action. But focusing on the subject of the 12 unions, it doesn't seem to go away. Even though they've now agreed to some level of negotiations, they still say government needs to pull out the court action. And this one is everybody's game, so I'll go with you.
Yes. Good morning to our viewers. I think probably for some of us, we should start putting together a report on how not to run the government.
I don't get you.
I mean, how come you do all the wrong things and you have all these problems? How to avoid these things? How not to
Are you saying we're
government?
having a leadership crisis?
Probably so. And the main cause is, one, lack of coordination. Lack of coordination in the sense that even for national security, they should be able to preempt some of these things and to forewarn government in advance that these are the implications or these are things that are likely to happen if you don't do these things. So sometimes you wonder what kind of advice would our national security operatives even give to the presidency, and how do they react to it? The labor issues, how are they anticipated? Because some of these things, they are seen 1 whole year before time. But if you're a government and you sit down and you wait for this to become a crisis, that means that probably you are not appreciating how you should run government. That is my... Because if you look at this labor issue, even this pension thing, as far back as December 2013, the
concerns had been raised by the workers?
Apart from the concerns, a whole public notice has been issued by the Pensions Authority that we are aware these are the issues. We are putting together all the facts and figures to let you know this is what is happening, so that we get your money transferred to those who manage it. And that was December 2013. Public notice, if you go to their website, you'll find it there. Come June, the same statement more or less was issued. After June, the workers met the president. Now, if you're not careful, then the impression you give is that until you make it a crisis, we will not address it. And I'm saying that it's a very serious thing. And for anybody running government, if you allow these things to come together this way, that means there's something that they are not doing right. And then your national security, how do they really advise you, and you take the advice? Because a lot of these things should be averted. And sometimes, as if we are an island, in other countries, how do they run their system? How would you allow persons to be employed for 2 years, and then you say that the controller didn't get my mandate, Ministry of Education didn't get my consent, I'm only paying for 3 months, I won't pay for the rest? Certainly, there will be chaos. Then you might as well not employ at all. If you are to employ, the person goes to classroom to go and teach for 2 whole years, the person thinks that, then you say, okay, I can only give you 3 months, I can't give you the rest. That would be problematic. So that is a major thing that we should all look at and find a way of addressing. As to the main issues, what you hear, the refrain most of the time is, the law is not good, the law is defective. We should have taken the trouble to look at the law very well. Fine. Pensions had become a major issue. If you look at SNIT was investing in all the wrong things, buying people's companies. Still buying people's companies, overvaluing the companies and paying them, and then going into all kinds of things. You list about 27 to 30 companies at a time. SNIT was investing in every sector. It was problematic. Now, workers were going home with peanuts. A new tier comes into being. 2008 is passed. 2009, a new government comes into place. The assumption is that you study what has been put there. To the extent that by 2011, you have passed regulations. 2011, you passed regulations as to how to manage those who in the system. They have a term for them, the health workers, educational workers, etc. You pass regulations. One, to regulate the basic pension, that is the SNIT one. One, to regulate the tier 2 system.
As the contributions.
As to those who manage it, even those who are supposed to manage it, they need to even go for insurance, so that if they mismanage the money, the insurance company will make it up for workers. It means that you agree with the system and you think it should roll. That's why by 2011 you brought in regulations. But so come 2014, you are now talking about the law being defective. Meanwhile, you are in charge of governance. You can easily bring the law back to Parliament as executive for any amendments to be made, for you to be more comfortable. You have the majority in Parliament, you can do this. And you sit complaining, and then when they rise up, you think the best way to do it is to go to court for interpretation. Interpretation of what? That's why I'm saying that I don't know how they see governance or how it should be managed, but I think too many things are happening and you get the impression that there's lack of coordination. Okay. Because if you have Attorney General in the absence of the President is out of Ghana, but they should be communicating with the President.
And so what does the President? The President has henchmen, and these henchmen are supposed to be responsible.
No, but he's the overall boss.
If I'm the President, you're saying the President should have been interacting with the workers, because
no, not the workers.
We've come to a certain knot situation.
Not the workers. If I'm the President of the country, and maybe I'm not of the country, and you think that the best solution is to go to court for so-called interpretation of the law that you can easily handle, and you get 800,000 plus workers to say that we are ready for you in court. If you think that's the only way we should go, then we are also ready. I think that something is not being managed well, with all due respect. When it comes to the issues, we still discuss the issue, but this is the general thing, how not to run government.
The question is, for all the things that have happened in the last couple of days, Mr. Adams, have we come to a certain crisis situation where the workers, after several pleas getting to them, still are very much adamant, even though they indeed acknowledge that they had not followed the right processes in going through, but they feel that they are following through these illegal processes because they feel that their rights are being trampled upon and they want to put things right?
Good morning to your viewers. What I'll ask simply is what rights?
No, their contributions. And they feel their contributions reservedly could be mismanaged in many respects.
Has it been mismanaged?
No, has not.
Have you proven that it's been mismanaged?
But you have to preempt.
You have not proven that it's been mismanaged. It has not been mismanaged, and you are claiming it could be mismanaged, and so as a result of that, you are going on a strike. Lawlessness. We're running a country based on rule of law. That is the essence of constitutional democracy. that we pass laws, we have a constitution that governs everything that we do. That is why we have a parliament that we spend money to maintain. That is why we have the judiciary that we spend money to maintain. That is why we have an executive that we spend money to maintain, to make sure that laws that we ourselves have agreed and passed are applied. So on what basis? Without evidence, not a single worker has gone on retirement and said that, oh, I did not even get my pension. Or any proof that funds have been applied to this type of investment and we think that it is going to go this way. We haven't even reached there yet. So seriously speaking, and going by the law, the National Pension Authority Act that was passed in 2008, you look at it clearly, there is nowhere that you will have any employee.
Well, Mr. Adam, it's an interesting point you make. To the point where the workers over the last 12 months have been asking questions and they've not been getting positive responses. I mean, in their own determination of what a positive response would be, then this could have been the last resort. And this decision could have been preempted in many ways.
There were two issues that they raised. One was about that they have created as employees their own
occupational funds.
Occupational funds. And that the second one is that the appointment of pension alliance is analogous to just having SNIT the way it used to be running everything. The law is so clear that you do not have any employee-sponsored scheme. The law is for the employer who yes, the funds are owned by the employee, but ownership of the funds does not entrust the management of the funds also to you. The employer pays that money on your behalf, so it is for you.
Granted. But to the point where we've had occupational schemes, and in the right scheme of things, these have been accepted from the very word go to this very point, until now they get to know, well, you are appointing a certain trustee onto us.
Being licensed.
Is that not a recipe for disaster?
Being licensed to run a media house is no guarantee that you are the one that will broadcast Flagstaff news.
Well,
being licensed, there's an institution to give you license to operate a media house. Being licensed to operate a media house does not guarantee you that right to be the one that will run news from Flagstaff House.
That is if the law doesn't allow you.
If the law doesn't allow you. The law vests in somebody to be able to choose who does what. And that is exactly what.
But Mr. Adams, you do agree that the law was made for the people and the law was made by man.
Sure, so that is why you sit and talk. You don't get to a point where when you have not concluded the talking, when there is no sign that there is any mismanagement to say that you are declaring strike so that the children will be suffering and people will be suffering. That is my worry. For me, that is my worry. That is my worry, because you are saying you don't know where to go. Look, what is government supposed to do? To appoint a trustee, which the employer has done as government for the public sector workers. They've appointed a trustee. The trustee has moved on to appoint a fund managers, about 4 or so of them to be the fund managers, and have also appointed 4 or so custodians. A Greek bank, I think Merchant Bank.
Merchant Bank?
Yeah, now it is Universal
Merchant Bank.
Merchant Bank, yeah. Commercial Bank, and then I think Zenith for some of the, about 4 or 5 banks to be the custodians of the funds. So processes are going on. Then you come in and say, no, you have your own schemes and you have your own fund manager, so everything be given you to run it. The law doesn't say so. So if the law also allows you to have representation on the trustees, at least 1/3 of the membership of the trustees should be reserved to the employees or the employee associations. This is where they are even talking and saying they want for and the employer should have 5. I strongly think that we can still talk. It is just the level of saying that, oh, we disobey the law. Because who will know that in a situation where we should apply the rule of law, anybody will behave this way?
Well,
that's the unfortunate part. That's
Obi,
my worry.
When all this started, and I believe when it started, was it supposed to be the last week, the position of government, and I remember the Minister of Employment and Labour Relations, Mr. Haruna Idrisu, was very stern on the position of government about appointing, is it the Pension Alliance Trust?
Yes.
And the role that it should play. Then subsequently, after consistent agitations by the workers, then they came, okay, you can come, we'll talk about the role of the Pension Alliance Trust, but it still holds. Now, subsequently, you've gone to court. If government, one, was firm on a decision, then a bit brittle or malleable at some point, now says that, well, we can go for negotiation, and now takes the workers to court. It means that at least there's some room for negotiations, and these could have been preempted or prevented.
Exactly so. And sometimes you make politicians look bad. It's like lip service. Between us, they sitting here. They say they are on the left. They say they are pro-labor. And the way they are handling labor issues, it's like lip service.
Meaning
now, meaning, you are sitting here saying that workers are reckless, they are lawless, they are this. You don't even use such words on workers.
No.
That's number one.
Please.
Let me finish.
I am here. So no. You are not making an analysis. Listen, you are not making an analysis of an issue. You are talking about what I have said. So once I'm here, I must not allow you. I must not allow you.
But you insisted that what they did was lawless. It was not
lawless. Reckless.
It was not lawful.
Of course, declaring the strike. If you go down,
okay, you've made your point. You've made your point. Let's make his point.
Ms. Adams, they will tell you that
Ms. Adams,
majority of them are not in support of this strike.
You've made your
point.
Declare by the leadership.
This is supposed to be a pro-labor, pro-union, pro-worker government. But everything that they do shows that it's just lip service. You're telling me that...
and to the point that they feel that the worker is not to be lawful.
No, you're telling me now that now you are ready to sit down at the table. If you've even withdrawn... You have withdrawn their complaint from Labour Commission. I would not be surprised if I hear that they've even withdrawn the suit in court.
No, because the Labour is insisting now.
No, because then it means that you could have sat down to talk instead of this brismanship. We are government, we are Labour, we are ready to show where power lies. You are telling me, I heard the minister saying that if it's 7 a.m. I'm in the office, I'm ready to meet the workers now. I'm ready to tell workers that we have 400 and so million at the Bank of Ghana. We are ready to give you all the details. So couldn't we have started all this before this crisis?
Because there were no asking for that.
Couldn't we have started all this before this crisis? And I'm saying that at least if you go a year back, this has been happening. If you go a year back, so we could have called them to come for a meeting at 7 a.m. a year ago, and we didn't do it, and we are now doing it. And now you are saying that you are going to court to seek interpretation of the law. What does that mean? So my attitude is that all these things, at the end of the day, if we are going to sit at a table to talk, then we don't need all this kind of brismanship. We don't need this kind of perceived confrontation between government and labor.
Do you think government has been too abrasive with its position?
That is what
vis-a-vis what also the position of the workers?
The government may say that we are running our government, we think that this is the way we should go. But I am saying that the government has been too aggressive and abrasive, and sometimes unaccommodating. Because what is it that you cannot sit down to talk with these leaders? Because they too have followers. If I'm leading a group, 800,000 strong, and then they seem to think that I'm not delivering, I always go back to them and say that government says we should wait. Government says we should come and talk. You push them to also act in a way that their followers will know that they are also leading them. And I'm saying that if we could sit down to do all these things, if we could take steps, you rush to Labour Commission, now you've withdrawn. I bet you.
So you're saying at least these could have been prevented?
These could have been prevented. That's the point you raised. And I'm emphasizing the point that we didn't need to go through all this. And at the end of the day, full disclosure, the money is not your money. With full disclosure, the 18.5% that is now being deducted, workers contribute, the employer contributes. And if you're saying that it's temporary, I've put your money in a certain account, and all this time, you are not telling them anything about the money. If you're saying that the money has been mismanaged, if you cannot give information on the money, we've seen some before, Come January, people will be retiring. Come January, they don't even have the capacity to know how much has been put in, how much has been invested, what has come out of the investment. They don't even have that knowledge and
So some
information.
level of transparency is also needed. Okay.
Otherwise, it's people's money. People are going home, and for the rest of their lives, they may not work again.
We'll try.
That is why government said that there should be lump sum for them. Come January, some are leaving. You haven't told them anything.
We'll try and speak to a law lecturer as well as he lectures on labor law, we're told. He's also a legal practitioner, and Dr. Godwin Adagawin will be on the line very soon for us. You wanted to make an interjection?
Sure, not just a small interjection.
Not a small interjection, a comprehensive one.
Comprehensive one for that matter.
If you allow him the comprehensive one.
I'm waiting to listen to what he wants to say.
It is important to state that government really didn't go for interpretation. Government went to court for the court to invoke the rights within the constitution. That the strike so declared is illegal.
But whether it's lawful or not lawful,
I'm saying that
whether it's within the remit of the law, is that not what it is?
Government was not in court for interpretation of the act. He was in court seeking the court to order the workers to call off the strike. Look, it is only in a hijack situation that a passenger now determines, or the hijacker determines the direction the driver should go.
So the workers are now hijackers.
That the hijacker determines where the driver should go. When you are driving a bus and the passenger is directing you, go this way, when you know that there are potholes there, it is for you to know that no, this is the way to go because this is the right way to pass. I'm taking you to Kumasi. This is the way to take you to Kumasi. You who is a passenger don't determine where to pass. And I'm saying that this is a leadership strike. This is a leadership declared strike. Government remains resolute to deal with labor. The issues that are being raised today, they keep shifting goalposts. The issue of availability of the money was never part of the consideration. Their concerns were two, that they didn't recognize the employer's right to appoint a trustee to manage the second tier, and that the appointment of pension alliance as a sole trustee is analogous to the SNIT situation where SNIT used to run everything. But that is not even the case. The law says clearly that it is the employer that can do this. So their first issue that they raise is down.
We have on the line legal practitioner and also a law lecturer on labor law, Dr. Godwin Adagawini. A very good morning to you, Doc.
Good morning. The name is Mr. Godwin Adagawini.
All right. Sorry. I think I want to give you a title perhaps very much undeserved. Okay. All right. I know you very well, though. And there's always a subject about what government could have prevented or preempted as far as this very strike action is concerned that has not been done. Do you think the position of the workers is in a perspective that is very much alien to the law as to what the interpretation of the law says and what rights it gives to the workers in itself?
Are you talking about the strike action, or you are talking about the substantive issue?
The substantive issue of the strike action by the workers vis-a-vis the concerns they are raising about their second-tier contributions.
Well, with respect to the strike action, the Labour Act specifies certain procedures that have to be followed if workers want to embark upon a strike, severance of labor disputes or industrial disputes. It also specifies conditions that have to be met for that to happen. For example, there must have first been negotiation with the employers. There must be mediation. There must be voluntary arbitration. You must be noticed, and you cannot strike more than 7 days. I don't know whether these conditions have been met by the the workers' groups. If that has not been done, then one may say that the strike violates the law. But let me be quick to ask that sometimes efforts to comply with these conditions can be frustrated by employers. And if that is the case, you may not blame the workers for resorting to strike action. But bottom line is there is always need for employers and workers to negotiate and discuss these matters in good faith and with open-mindedness. I believe they have come to this point because the basic ingredients for an amicable resolution of the matter might not have been satisfied. On the substantive issue, the question as to whether the workers should be given the right to determine who manages the fund or it is the employer that should. It doesn't seem the law has expressly addressed that particular question. And that may have created the kind of impasse that we have now. Now, the question is whether we should allow negotiation between the parties to resolve it, we should allow the Labour Commission to resolve it, or we should allow a judicial interpretation to resolve this particular issue. I think that is the bone of contention now. And I believe the workers are intensifying the strike as part of the negotiation process in terms of, the strategy that they think they have to use to get what they want. If they keep striking and then more or less paralyze government services, maybe government may back down and then meet them somewhere. These are my interpretation exactly of what is happening.
Okay. Now, the subject of what the agitations are, or is at the center of the agitation of the workers, is a matter of who the trustee is and what role it should play, and the role that workers also need to play in the management of their pension contributions. As far as government is now in courts, well, and all that is also under dispute, so to speak, with the workers in all these negotiations they're undertaking. What is government trying to do now? Trying to seek an interpretation, or say that perhaps the workers and their position they've taken is quite illegal or alien to the law?
From the press, one of the reliefs the government is taking is a declaration that as an employer, it has the right to determine the one to manage the fund. So that is more or less to interpret the law relating to that particular issue, and then to state that it is the employer, in this case, the government, that has the right to do that. That's what the government is seeking to do. But the essence of all of this is workers have the right, at least, to know who manages their pension fund. And in some cases, you can extend that right to maybe say that they also have the right to determine who should. But there may be other practical issues that may make the right of workers to determine who or to select who manages the fund a bit of a problem. But at least there can be transparency, even if it is government that must determine who should manage the fund. There can be transparency, there can be openness, there can be competition. So they're all eligible entities with the requisite expertise and experience can have a fair opportunity of presenting their case and a fair opportunity of being selected or being rejected. I think these are some of the areas that the parties should be looking at.
Okay. My last question before I let you off the line. Can we draw the conclusion that perhaps government could have been so wrong, or the workers, based on the position and the hardline position they've taken, could have been also so wrong? Who is wrong here?
In all of this, I believe there are a number of hidden issues that have not been brought out.
Like
who are the companies, for example?
You mean Pension Alliance Trust?
The workers also have companies that they are rooting for. Who are they? Who are the individuals behind them? These groups are not bringing out this information, and it becomes difficult to answer the question that you ask. Because if we know all these facts, then we are in a better position to answer the question that you posed. And I'm not sure that even all the workers have the requisite information that enables them to take one position or the other. We need to know the entities, and we need to know who their owners are. We need to know who the managers are, the directors, and all of that, their track record. If we have these pieces of information in the public domain, I am sure that the debate will be better than the current in a way.
Okay, I said I was asking you the last one. Please, this one, the last one. The workers wanted to know, or still want to know, how much is there in that very account at the Bank of Ghana, and then how much is going to be allocated to each of the occupational funds since they started contribution in 2010, I believe. Why should that be important, and why is government also very reluctant to give them what really the sums are?
Again, I would say that it is legitimate to want to know, because that is public fund, isn't it? It's public fund, and the Constitution specifies conditions in which certain pieces of information may not be given out to the public. And if there is a dispute, the Supreme Court can determine whether a particular piece of information can be given out or not. But, if workers are contributing towards a fund, at a certain point in time, it will not be out of place for them to want to know how much the fund has accrued. Government may well have very good reasons why it may not want to disclose that. But government should be forthcoming, to explain why. Is it a practical reason? Is it a legal reason? We need to know what the constraints may be. But I do not think that it is out of place for workers who want to know how much has accrued so far.
Okay, thank you very much. And lawyer and law lecturer, Godwin Adagaweni, and thanks for joining me. Now,
let me conclude.
You conclude. Okay.
Just saying that. No. I was making my statement when the call came through. So this government remains labor friendly, and that is why government over the years have implemented.
One precedent have not shown that. Over the last 2 years, there have been as many strikers you can count. That has happened even over the last 10 years.
The full-scale implementation of even the single spine salary structure is a government's commitment to rewarding labor over a shorter period than even anticipated. That by itself alone is government desire, and we must do so in a constitutional legal process. It doesn't mean that because you are labor friendly, so anything that they say that you see a risk for the future of pensioners. Look, when you go on pension, you are an individual. You are no longer part of a union. The union will not be there to be protecting you when you go on pension. Government will ultimately, as an employer, in this case also, will be called to come in to kind of help.
Well, lies in your argument. The workers will be given their funds, second-tier funds. They send it to a legal and appropriate fund manager. The fund manager at the end of the pension period gives the individual the money. So where lies the ambiguity?
The employer, per the law now, is the one supposed to appoint a trustee, which the employer has done. I will give you the section. I'll give you the section later.
Please sit well. Just have a seat.
I'll give you the section later. Government is the one supposed to do that. That's the employer. The private sector employers is straight away no. They can also run their own. There's nowhere in the act that says that the employee can also have a scheme.
Not specifically.
Not specifically. It's not, but specifically the employer-sponsored scheme is mentioned. That one is clearly mentioned, and that you can also have myriads of them being managed by just one group, like in the case of the Pension Alliance. That has happened. Look, the issue of accountability, how much has accrued, has never been part of the issues. It has only come up now. So when people are talking about accountability, the matter of accountability has only come up now, because it is only after, if the workers had not complained about the appointment of Pension Alliance, and then the fund managers and the custodians by extension that have been selected, you will now get to the point where Bank of Ghana will now be directed to transfer monies to the custodians. But because of these continuous complaints that they are raising, we are now back to dealing with the appointment.
Is it an accountability issue? If the workers want to know who are behind, Pension Alliance Trust, And
how
It's
much-
a registered. It's a registered.
how much
It's a
has
registered.
and how
a registered
effective
company.
can they be? And how
No.
much is our accrual so far since we started contributing since 2010?
Well, I don't agree with my friend here if he says that the issue of how much has accrued has only become an issue now.
Recently.
I don't agree.
Why?
Because, as I said, a year back, the Pensions Authority, by public notice, was telling the whole world that we are putting figures together for you to know how much has accrued. On the morning of the strike, the minister was saying that one of the major issues is how much has accrued, and he
even
has
mentioned, volunteer the figure.
Yes, he has an
Yeah,
authority
yeah.
that's over
Because it
400
become
million.
an issue.
Around.
Yes, so it's not that
a little
it
over
became a recent issue. It's been an issue. That's number one. Going forward, I believe the government should be flexible, sit down with labor, and have these things addressed. It's not helping anybody. Productivity is suffering. Nobody should be happy about what is going on now. And the more government creates the impression that we are right, you are wrong, we are ready to face you in court, the more this thing gets protracted, and the more the whole country suffers. Nobody should create the impression that this is the law, we are interpreting the law. It is, as you heard the lecture, he said if that place appears to be a gray area, if you government believes so, why have you not rectified it? Why have you not rectified it? Because it comes to Parliament, Parliament passes it, it becomes a law. Okay. So why are we waiting on this?
Government's communication.
If you have
utterances, no,
section 129. No, he will ask for a section. I want to give him a section.
You want to give me? You want to
I
give
want
me?
to give a section that he asked for, which talks about the employer-based scheme. That's section
We are not
129.
talking about employer-based scheme. We are talking about the
you
gray
asked
area
me for-
about the employer
you
and the employee as
asked
to
me
who manages it.
Which section
You
talks about
understand?
the employer scheme only?
what
That's why I
did you-
said
what
section
interjection you
129.
want?
Section 129. That's the section that deals with the employer
Based scheme.
based
Okay,
scheme.
you are asking a question.
In all this, how worrying has
You
the
say the
utterances
utterances
of government's communication
it's not only
people been?
utterances, it's
How-
government's posture.
Okay, posture,
Government's posture.
communication. How has it perhaps even consolidated the matter further?
Well, you listen to government communicators, and right from beginning, they are wrong, we are right. They are wrong, we are right.
You think that's not diplomatic enough?
Not
they-
only saying
If a
that.
party feels that the workers are wrong, they are wrong.
Not only that, but even the words they use on workers. One of the panelists representing government was more or less asked to retract what he has said on your program last Saturday. Newsfire. That the impression he was creating was that the workers
have the competence?
Yes, they were not competent, they were ignorant, and then he had to explain himself and pain himself. But listening to him, that was the impression he was creating. And then you find communicators saying that workers are doing, to the extent that they even say that the other 24 scheme managers, other 24 companies which have been licensed to run this thing, they are seeking to get the money so that they will use it to fund MPP. Is that how to address issues?
Those are speculative.
Not speculative, yes, very speculative and no basis at all.
But you don't take this comment serious, do you?
No, but they are on the front pages of their newspapers.
But who,
They are on
who
front
the-
pages
who
of your
who are
newspapers.
their newspapers.
You don't have
The person speaking as a newspaper or who
The pro-government newspapers.
Of course, if somebody puts something
Pro-government
out there,
newspapers.
just
Then-
like the workers themselves
and then you
are
hear the
speculating
you
and
hear
going
the-
on strike based on speculations.
Not speculation. You are saying that they are even looking, Akufo-Addo is looking for the money to run his campaign. We should treat this matter with all the seriousness it deserves. Not this flippant,
But it's
flimsy
good that it's
thing.
not being politicized, though, because so far I don't think there's been a political
No,
twist. to it.
I mean, yesterday I heard the deputy minister communication saying so much which was quite unnecessary. And this is how you're going to address issues. Some of these issues, this is a
Kofi Adam,
major issue.
do you
that
think the
should have
communication has been
senior-
wrong? The posture
you should have
of
senior members
government,
of government
the
talking about it,
utterances.
and then
You see,
leave the politics out of it.
You see, I was a teacher when Honorable Obi Amwa was Deputy Minister for Education and Sports, responsible for sports.
Yes.
I remember we went on a sudden strike as Nagrat then. I hope that they play back government position on that strike for him to realize that when you feel frustrated by the actions
You have
of
to take certain
labor,
steps.
sometimes you have to take certain steps
So you are
to
frustrated.
safeguard the interests of those who are suffering. Look, as we speak now,
But if the
people
steps
go
you
to-
take
people
are
go
being
to-
questioned,
No, no, no.
that's
Of course,
that's
it
more
has-
of a serious
it has-
issue than issue.
the legal action initiated has made workers realize that look, government is a little bit serious about this matter, and therefore let's sit and talk. In a way, it
Are
has,
you
for
sure?
me, it has, of course, it has helped. It has helped because you don't wait for a court to do a declaration. Because if the court that declaration, it blocks you from even opportunity to what? Negotiate. So now they are agreeing to sit for a discussion, which is good. But it is important that they call off this strike. Because for me, there is no indication that a dime has been mismanaged. There has been full assurance. There has been full assurance that per the law, the money is sitting with Bank of Ghana. It is only after the trustees have started and directed the scheme managers and then investment and who holds the money, how much goes to this custodian, how much goes to the other, before they can move it from Bank of Ghana to the custodians. That hasn't happened yet. The money is there.
If the money is there,
and
the workers keep asking questions,
and the minister have
and you don't give them responses.
What more do you want? The minister have assured that, look, an actuary will be appointed to analyze them so that those who will be going on pension come January 1st will not suffer anything. They will make sure their entitlement is paid to them the way it is designed. What more assurance do you want?
There's been a question, Mr. Adams, about how government is more reactive instead of being proactive towards
I'm
issues.
saying that, of course, nobody will predict that a strike that is illegal will be declared. You may think that, oh,
you can't predict. You don't have your intelligence on the ground.
Of course,
you don't
we
do
thought
surveillance.
that we are in a lawful. We are in a lawful. We thought that we are applying rule of law here, and dealing with people who know what they are about. You don't expect that when you have not even sat down.
And nobody would think of
when you have sat down,
it's illegal.
When you sat down and you are negotiating, and what you are talking about is whether this one is right or not. You have not given indication at any stage that you want to strike.
No, but
because there's a labor law there also that says that if you want to strike, you give a certain notice. So if they had given
when the employer too also has a certain skill of delaying the whole process of making sure the workers also.
You're talking about frustrated government being frustrated.
How was the employer delaying? The employer who is supposed to appoint a scheme manager, a trustee, has done so.
And
the trustee has
this very strike action, how has it been a loss to the economy?
Oh, sure, a lot.
I've said it.
A lot.
I've said it that productivity is suffering. I mean, yesterday I was not in town, so this one I was asking my wife, how was traffic yesterday? Because if people are on strike, then it means I can take a few minutes to reach where I'm living.
Free flow.
So traffic was just free flow. It means that people are not working. People are staying at home. I have teachers in my constituency. They don't go to the classroom.
Which is bad.
They don't go to the classroom. You see kids walking around.
Which is bad.
And so it's affecting the economy. It's affecting the whole nation. And government should be seen to be serious about addressing this issue. And to assure us, not only that the money is here, the money is there, and to assure us that some of these things will be averted. Otherwise, even after they have declared a strike for the pension, within that, the teachers who have declared another strike.
Have we come to the point
we
where
have not even mentioned that aspect of it?
Have we come to the point where we need the president's intervention in this?
That's what I'm saying, that with the global world, if you're president, even when you are away, you're still running the country. Some of these things, do they communicate with him before they even take those steps?
I'm sure they do.
So, the Attorney General informed the president that he's taking workers to court. The president said, go ahead. Instead of the president saying that, call them to the table.
If you were a president, you wouldn't have advised your minister to take.
No, I wouldn't have done that.
But you took us
it's too early.
You took us to.
It's too early.
To court. I was saying you took us to court without even any negotiation.
Your action is the first step.
Without any negotiation.
If it had been the last resort, then everybody will see that.
It wasn't the last resort.
Yours is the first step.
It wasn't the last resort. You took us to court.
Yours is the first
go and check the.
That's why I'm saying that how not to run government. If my government were to come to power, inshallah.
Which will not be the case.
Inshallah, 2017.
Foreseeable future.
If I'm not given any opportunity to serve, the only thing I want to do is to catalog all these things that have happened under their regime so that we don't repeat them. So don't come and sit here and tell me that you took us to court, so you take workers to court.
You know what?
If we took NAGDA to court, you do have to take internet thousand plus to court because you cannot tell them where their money is. That is the bottom line.
You know what?
How much is their money? Tell them where their money is.
The issue of where the money is not an issue at all.
Is it Bank of
money?
Ghana?
We don't carry physical money to come and dump there for you.
Show them documents.
the issue of
Show them the
membership
field.
on the trustee is clear, that the employee will have a 1/3 representation on the trustee. So that is also clear. If they want to know, you see, this Honorable Obiama, we must stop this act where institution-based representation on boards or trustees, they are there, they sit there, decisions are taken, then they come back and pretend as if they are not part and parcel of that process. We must stop that. You see, we run a government on laws and constitution.
What is the progress?
We don't run a jungle system. It's based on laws.
I don't know whether this is progress or not. What I do know, if we do a content analysis of the news report, is that, for example, the Health Service Workers Union and their representative has said that, well, all of them have decided to return to the negotiation table based on the advice of their legal counsel. And he's been quoted saying, we're told by our lawyers that we could do both the negotiations and the strike while we respond to the writ of summons also in court.
Well,
and we will later present the outcome of the negotiations to the court when the need arises.
Well, what you're trying to say is that initially we were told that we have been sued. So we said that if we have been sued, and let's wait for the court to take its course.
But now they'll negotiate on the side.
We are waiting for the summons. We are waiting for the writ. We will then see the claim, and we also file our defense. Initially, that was the attitude.
And continue with the strike?
Yes,
while we
continue
negotiate. It's a three-pronged approach.
Now they are saying that we have been advised that we can still sit down without making it look like we are showing contempt to the court.
So they'll respond to the court?
They'll respond. They'll file their
continue
defense,
negotiating?
But they'll
while they're on strike?
While they're on strike.
That's what they're saying?
Yes.
Wait.
While they're on
That's
strike.
very much unfair to the people of Ghana.
You bring in the moral, the issue of the people of Ghana. It's also very unfair if you talk about 800,000. It's not only them, they and their families. They are also the people of Ghana. And they are entitled to that kind of thing.
The private schemes, the private sector, for example. This time we're talking about the public sector workers, the private sector workers. Are they also involved in all this?
There's no problem with the private sector because it is the law is clear, employee based. So they are running. They've registered and then running.
So government as an employer also decided
to also pay the law.
Use pension alliance trust.
But you know what? We are getting to a point where we should start like it happens in the developed world, where people strike and they are held responsible for their strike. You must pay your union members.
In the UK, after 12 days, I believe you have to.
When you go on strike after a certain number of days, or sometimes even you lose that opportunity and you can easily be replaced. It is high time we start implementing so that it will compel people to sit for negotiations rather than this rushing quickly for strikes. But government will always continue to apply laws. And the issue of the funds and its availability is not in doubt.
While this very strike action is ongoing, workers on the FPS, or Kwame Nkrumah, had also been striking. They feel that they don't get equal pay for equal work done.
Yes,
if they rationalize that with what their expatriates get.
If it's proven that what is happening is discrimination.
Well, yesterday,
of course,
the communication consultant for the Ministry of Energy, Edward Bauer, said, well, that was an industry practice.
It's proven that because the person is an expatriate,
they are paid more. So he's assuming that if a Ghanaian goes to work in Angola, he's paid more than the ordinary.
It depends on the magnitude. If they calculate your allowances, out of station allowance, or instances, and they commensurate with what you're doing, I don't think there should be any problem. But if they say that the person is a local person, is earning 8,000, you are expatriate, you are earning 18,000, and it cannot be proven, then obviously there will be a problem. Because the 8,000 person may even be working far harder than the 18,000 person. And just because he has flown in, for all you know, there's even an equal skill in Ghana here. But for all you know, he's been flown in, so you should earn 18,000. Why you earn 8,000?
I hope you don't bring the issue of hardware, because even those who do concrete, they work harder than even those.
No, really. I'm talking about analogous situation. Okay. I'm not talking about you sitting here interviewing me and any more than somebody carrying blocks outside. I'm not talking about that. With all due respect, you're looking at me. Obviously, you're any more than somebody carrying blocks.
No, that's not what he's saying. He's saying
that's why I'm saying that analogous.
That's what I meant, actually.
No,
that's what you meant.
When he goes to the block industry,
it's confessed.
No, when you go to the block industry, construction industry itself.
I mean, you use a lot more of your strength. You work harder.
No, the one who carries the sand, the stones to be mixed, earns less than the one who supervises the pouring of the concrete, who is not doing
the foreman who is not doing anything.
Who is not so
the foreman doesn't do anything at all.
Is the skill also you count?
That's why I've used the word analogous.
You are all.
They are saying that we are all at the same
level. You are saying there should be some rationalization.
There should be some rationalization. I need to get more details about what is going on. I'm sure in the coming days, if we get